Today we're going to show you how to hit wedges with low launch and high spin, just like the best in the world do. Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we are in my studio, and I'm joined by my good buddy Blake Cannon. To me, he's known as one of the better wedge players around and one of the best short game coaches around. So we're blessed to have him with us today, helping us learn how to hit these shots.
Well, thanks, Milo. Hopefully we can provide you guys some valuable insight on how to hit some better wedges today.
If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button. We come out with content every week, and we'd hate for you to miss it. So Blake, we've all seen the best players in the world. They hit these little flighted wedges. They come out of a lower trajectory with lots of spin on them. Why is that important?
Because they want consistency, right?
Because it's hard to control those balls that go way up high in the air.
It is, yeah. Those moon balls, just I think, yes, we want low, yes, we want high spin, but we want somewhat of a consistent trajectory too, right? Because I think that's the big problem is most guys, when they're hitting wedges, they're throwing so much loft at the thing that it's not just that it's high, it's inconsistently high too. Whereas good players, they like that little low flighted wedge, because it kind of has that one hop and stop, that's pretty predictable, and it makes it easy to gauge, how much body, how aggressive I want to be with that to get it to fly 50, 60, 70. So, but if you don't know where that ball is going to launch, you don't really know how far it's going to go.
For sure. I like to think of it kind of like the game cornhole where you're tossing beanbags. Mm-hmm. The best players I've played against at that game, they throw these little low floaters in there that hit and slide in the hole. Yeah. They don't really throw them up in the air and try to make them rain down. Yeah. And pitch them in there.
More importantly, next time you go play cornhole, try tossing one high, one low, and see how well you probably won't be very good.
Exactly.
But that's where we want to find some consistency. So I think today what we're going to get into is diving into why guys generally don't hit that aren't able to hit that low flighted spinny wedge shot, and then we'll get into how what changes you should make to start executing that shot.
Perfect. So Blake, show us kind of a typical amateur wedge shot.
All right, I'll give it my best shot here.
Okay, so that was a lot better than the typical amateur. That was 33-degree launch angle. I see from my students, I see a lot of balls above 40.
Yeah, so I tried to throw that loft. It's just, here, I'll give it one more.
Oh! That was high. There you go. Now that looked more like what I see.
You said above 40.
43.
I don't know, did I break anything? I didn't try and hit like a flop, but holy guacamole.
So, you hit it above 40, it went above my screen and hit the foam up there, the panels. Yeah. So, that wasn't optimal. Now show us more of the window we're looking for.
All right.
Now, before you do, what is the window we're looking for? Kind of what trajectory window would we want to see?
From a degree perspective, anywhere from like 26 to 28 is kind of the sweet spot, kind of what I'm looking for a launch angle.
So let's see one of those.
All right, let's see it.
There you go, almost exactly 26.
You really want with your wedges, you want the launch angle to be less than half of the loft of the club. So if you're hitting a 60, you want this to be under 30. And maybe more, like maybe for this shot, because it's a half shot, you're looking at this to be like 25.
And it's not going to change a whole lot for me. That's what made me a good wedge player. I'm not a big clock system guy. I know a lot of guys are. But that consistent launch angle allowed me to really, really hone in on, my distance control. If it was all over the place, perfect example. I tried to throw loft into the first one, and then I did the same thing a second time, and they were 10 degrees apart. So that's why most people aren't good wedge players, is I don't even have control of when I start throwing loft, I don't really know if I'm throwing 36
How much
or 40.
You're throwing?
No, I don't have control of that.
Okay.
What I do have control of is using my pivot to unwind this golf club and produce that 26-degree launch angle every time. That's a lot more predictable.
So that leads us right where we need to go with this. What causes the player to have no control? What are they not doing?
Lack of width and not using their pivot very much are the two most common things.
So this club starts to want to pass them. Their attack angle becomes almost too shallow. They're almost level through the ball a lot of the time.
They're almost level. You see a lot of guys not turn very much going back or through. And then you'll see a lot of them starting to throw this loft up and actually start to kind of back out and pull out as they're letting that club lengthen out. And that's where you see a lot of the problems initiate.
Okay.
The main things that I want people to focus on is I want to make sure that my body has a lot of winding and unwinding. Not necessarily a lot of shifting of pressure when I hit these little wedge shots. I don't feel like there's a lot of shifting and pressure. My stance isn't supremely wide. It's just wide enough to kind of manage just more of a pivot turning driven motion rather than a shift of pressure. And then I want to feel like my arms are relatively wide going back. The reason that's important is because I want to feel like I let this club shallow out, and I want to feel like I come into impact with a lot of shaft lean. What a lot of people do is they swing their arms back relatively narrow, and then they don't feel comfortable producing that shaft lean anymore because they feel like they're going to dig it into the ground. So they end up stalling their body and throwing. If we can get a wide arc back with a good amount of turn, it really allows a guy to feel like he can shift that path in and out and produce a lot of that shaft lean with a little bit of a baby draw feeling motion.
Yeah, you can see that last ball. You had just a little tightest of draws.
And it doesn't draw very much, but definitely we have the path a little in and out, and we have a lot of shaft lean coming into that. And another main key is I really want people to focus on being pretty aggressive on the through swing with their body. I feel like my chest turns at a pretty high rate of speed relative to my arms. I'm definitely not extremely passive with my body. If we can put those things together, wider feeling arms, and then let the club feel like it shallows a little bit with a nice aggressive body, that's what gives us that slightly lower launch angle.
There you go.
We're at 27 degrees again.
27 degrees.
And it should stay kind of right in that sweet spot.
So a lot of people, when they think about width, think that the club has to be way away from them like this. But you can still have width and have some angles loaded, right?
Yeah, the width I'm concerned with, especially in these distance wedges, is the width of this to my chest, not the club head to my chest.
That's what I think of when I think of width. I think of how far away is the cap of that grip from me. If I keep that away from me, I've got plenty of width, and then I can go ahead and turn through without being afraid that I'm going to create too steep of an angle and dig a hole.
And that's what allows you to produce the shaft lean, right? If you let this butt of the club get close to you, you probably wouldn't be very comfortable maintaining that shaft lean anymore. So, and I also, one more thing to add is I definitely feel a little bit of hip flexion as I change directions with wedges, allowing me to produce all that shaft lean.
So that hip flexion will naturally kind of lower you a little bit.
Yeah. So as I change directions, I feel as I let the club shallow, there's a little bit of a lowering move, allowing me to produce all that shaft lean. Definitely more than a pitch or a chip or something like that.
Okay, Blake, so I want you to show us one more of the amateur bad.
Okay. Hopefully without hitting the ceiling this time.
Don't hit it off the roof. Okay, so that's bad. Hit it up over 36 degrees of launch.
A couple things happened intentionally when I tried to make it bad. I didn't turn very much. I used a lot of arms. I also chunked it as I was trying to throw loft, which is a common problem for a lot of people, right? Because I start throwing that club out and I don't turn very much, and I start running into the ground behind it a lot.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who have this issue hit a lot of chunks. And then they also will hit a thin after they chunk it because they're afraid of the chunk.
But the chunk is kind of the cause that generally leads to the thin in most cases, right? The thin's generally a reaction. You see a lot of low point issues when they're trying to hit these little wedges. So I'll go ahead and hit a better example now. So in this case, I'm going to use a lot more pivot back, a lot more width, and I'm definitely going to be more aggressive with my body.
And there we go, back on your 26 number again.
The low point will definitely be affected by the fact that I'm making my pivot work a lot more. That's what allows me to bottom out in front of it. That combined with the shaft lean is going to help me move that low point forward too. It's this stalling of the body and throwing the hands and unloading the loft that I think causes a lot of chunks. The only other thing that we haven't talked about is as I'm producing more shaft lean with the better pivot driven motion, this ball is interacting with the face more by grabbing it, which is helping that ball spin, versus when I don't use my body very much and I just throw loft, the ball starts to interact with the face by rolling up it, which is part of the launch angle, but also why it doesn't spin very much, right? We need that shaft lean to create the friction to allow us to spin it. So that's why you at home are struggling with those floaty high wedges that are coming off and not spinning as much as you'd like to see. So if you could remember just a couple things, I want you to get your pivot more engaged back and through. Feel like your body's aggressive in the sense of I want your body to be working a lot on these little wedges, and then you're going to feel a wider arc with a little bit more shaft lean to create that low baby draw wedge.
So a drill I like to use for this is just a couple of alignment sticks. I'll set them and I create like a little teepee like this. I'll stick them in the ground, and then the goal is you have to put the ball has to launch under the alignment sticks.
Yeah.
And you have to do it without taking without putting the ball way in the back of your stance and hitting straight down on it and taking a big old gouge.
That's the key, because that's when you know you're starting to produce shaft lean, right? So you create this wide arc and you're trying to flat it down. You're going to take some amount of divot probably, but you're just not trying to take that gouging steep divot.
Exactly. Blake, I want you to show us one where you're imagining, we're going to exaggerate this one. We're imagining I've set up the teepee, and we're going to try to drive it as low as we can in there without thumping the ground too hard. Okay. So now we lowered your flight to 21 degrees. So to be able to hit a 60-degree wedge, 21-degree launch angle, you had to do some stuff, right?
Definitely I had to lower myself a lot more, and I definitely been producing a lot more shaft lean, and I try and feel that path, feel it a little more from the inside to get that shaft lean without digging too much.
Yeah. So that's a drill I really use a lot. I have people just way exaggerate. If you can't make a golf ball go really low, then you don't know how to lean the shaft correctly.
Yeah, this is great foundational practice for the rest of your golf swing too. That's why I like guys. Distance wedges should help your golf game, not hurt it. You know, it creates a lot of the principles that we want to move up the chain as we start swinging faster and bigger.
One last bit of advice. When you're practicing hitting these low-flighted distance wedges, you have to keep a couple things in mind. If you are hitting range balls, what are the odds you're going to be able to pull that flight down with a hard range ball?
Yeah, you definitely need good golf balls to get that low launch.
We need some good golf balls. We need our equipment to be good and clean. These grooves need to be fairly new. They need to be fairly clean. And the lie you give yourself, what if the ball's all wet? You're on a wet, squishy ground.
It's not going to launch as low.
It's going to be harder to pull that flight down. Because the thing that pulls that ball down is friction.
Yep.
So you need friction. And if you have nice dry conditions, good golf balls, good clean clubs, you should be able to start to see that golf ball drop under whatever your club, if your club's loft is 60, cut it in half, 30. You got to get it under that.
Yep. And the main thing is we want it consistent. So without knowing the numbers yourselves, we want you to be able to make that little teepee out there and find that same window every time, because then you know the motion is working, producing a nice consistent low launch.
Yeah, and then the amount of energy you impart will start to give you a number, and you can predict it.
Then your feel becomes relevant.
Yes. So Blake, recap this for us, tie it up with a bow so everybody can understand why they can't hit those low-flighted ones and what the key principles are.
Sure. The reason you can't hit the low-flighted spinning wedge is because your pivot doesn't do very much, so you don't wind and unwind your body very much, and your hands and arms are just way too active. So you get set up here and you just kind of swing the arms up and down, and there's no way to get the loft off the golf club efficiently if you do that. So if you want to hit those low spinny wedge shots, start getting your winding and unwinding to start moving more of the motion, get those arms to swing on a nice wide arc, keeping the butt of this club away from you, and go hit those low little draws, keeping that club back behind you.
Okay, hit one more for us.
All right.
Close us out.
Last chance. We'll say 26 degrees launch angle. Ah,
25. You hit it 1 degree too low.
Yep, 1
you
degree.
You had to come up a yard short. So, hopefully you guys liked this video. If you did, hit that like and subscribe button. Come visit us at milolinesgolf.com, where we can help you learn to swing like an athlete, hit your wedges like Blake, and play better golf.
That's how you make a bunch of birdies.
Yep.
Thanks for watching.